Welcome to the Moving to LA podcast, an idiot's guide made by people who have no idea what they're doing. I am your host, Jessica Sprague, along with my scrumptious husband, Andrew. How are you?
Nice. I'm glad you're looking these up each time.
I'm really not. I just have a thesaurus, and I can't say the word
adjectives
thesaurus.
To describe me. I like it. I'm doing wonderful. Thanks, honey.
Oh, good. All right. So this is episode 4. What a journey this has been. Episode 4 is A New Hope in Star Wars, and we hope that this episode gives you new hope, whatever it is in your life. We just wanted to update everyone. Obviously, this is a weird time in the entire world, but especially...
in a galaxy here and now.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, everyone's dealing with the coronavirus. We're recording this. I'm only giving dates because you can kind of know exactly where the timeline is, especially for people listening in the future and are like... will there be podcasts in the future? We hope. Well, I hope so. I hope podcasts overtake the amount of humans on the earth.
Well, that's probably already happened.
Probably, actually. And half of them are just average guys talking about movies, I bet.
A married couple talking about their boring lives.
I hate those. So, essentially the date, like I said, is March 28th that we're recording this. So, this is actually a couple weeks after we recorded the last one. So, a lot has happened. Essentially, California and a lot of other states is just basically in lockdown. We can't leave our homes unless there's an absolute necessary reason to leave. Yeah,
there's police cars posted all up and down the streets. They're watching for people gathering together or being out needlessly. I've seen on Reddit people talking about getting pulled over and getting ticketed because they've been asked, where are we going? Are you going to work? Or, something that you're required to do. And if they don't have the, necessary information or they aren't actually going out there for anything necessary, they've been ticketed and things like that. So yeah, shit's getting locked down for sure.
Right. Yeah. Essentially you can't, Andrew and I, from what it seemed like, from what I read at this point, you can go outside to walk or run or bike for exercise, but you can't do it with people. I can't even do it with Andrew, it seemed like, unless we were 6 feet apart from each other, because even though we're quarantined together and so we're not necessarily endangering each other walking that close, they don't know that we live together.
Why get hassled, why get stopped and bothered and questioned and have to deal with all that, right? So it's especially you don't want to teach other people who might see you and go, oh, well, I saw some other friends walking around, so I'll go out with my friend, and you want to encourage social distancing. Yeah,
you can't visit anyone, you can't, which is fine with us because we were gonna visit, but and the beaches are closed down, can't go to the beach, you can't, they're just there are a lot of parks that have shut down.
We actually got an Amber type alert. I think
it was a public safety
emergency. I shouldn't say Amber alert, but
it was
on all of our phones, it made that annoying sound so that you look at it and have to check it out. So it definitely, they're taking it seriously.
Yeah, which is good because obviously we want to be able to get back to living in LA because, it's really frustrating. I mean, the whole thing is frustrating, but especially for us, it's we just got here, and we just started this podcast about going and doing stuff in LA, and we're no, we can't. Right. But not to worry, we're still going to, we luckily have been to LA many times and had about a month and a half-ish of doing a bunch of things. So
and we did a ton that we haven't talked about yet, so we've got plenty to be able to, hold us out until hopefully we'll be able to go out and explore a little bit more.
Exactly. So all the things that we're going to talk about probably for the next month or so, depending, is stuff that we've done before. So we don't want anyone getting on there and being you're not social distancing. We are, okay? We're just reminiscing in memories, because that's all we have left.
Right. But we're not going to talk about the coronavirus.
No. Just an update.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it was just an update, especially because California, I think, is the 3rd most cases right now.
Wow.
Not anywhere close to New York, luckily. They're like 30,000 more than we are. But just kind of an update of like how serious they're taking it, and hopefully the timeline, it'll get better and better. So yeah, we'll see. So with that, we wanted to kind of just like, we want to always update what we're doing with our job.
Job update, looking for job. Job update, looking for job.
Yep. That was good. And so essentially I'll start just because it's super easy. Haven't heard anything, obviously. Because I
just got cast in the new Hunger Games. They're doing a reboot.
They told me I couldn't do it anymore because they had to postpone. No, last time I talked about how, you know, Universal Studios closed down a couple days after I interviewed for a position. Obviously, haven't heard from them. They're shut down till April 19th currently. So we'll see what goes on. But, yeah, haven't heard anything. Haven't really applied for anything because, you know, who's going to hire me at this point?
For me, I applied to a bunch of jobs. Obviously, I said last time I got the job as a census taker. That is on hold for now, hopefully till just May. Obviously, we'll see what happens with this whole pandemic, where it goes from there. But on the side, I've also been applying for all kinds of different production and creative work. And on that front, I got a response back from Phoenix Pictures. They've produced tons of movies, but most notably in my heart and mind was Black Swan with Natalie Portman and Darren Aronofsky as the director.
You get to do
right?
you might be able to assist in a lesbian scene. Oh, yeah. Imagine.
Again,
yeah. That's what you specialize in. At least that's what you tell them in your interview.
Listen, I got a tip for you. And so we'll find out more about that, but that's an intern position in their production. Obviously, the person started, you know, talking with me over email, literally like right when we went into lockdown, and everybody started laying off everybody in production, and everything started getting halted. So we'll find out more about that. But on another cool, fun note, I actually was approached by like a UCB group. I shouldn't say I was approached by, but there was a posting by a member of the Upright Citizens Brigade, you know, like comedy Facebook group, talking about needing writers for a Dungeons and Dragons subscription service and how they needed content creators. And so I reached out to them and I showed them an old sketch that I made with our buddies Trevor and Craig and Doug and people that we do Dungeons and Dragons with now. And we made a video, and I sent it over to her, and she liked it enough to respond and say, hey, we're looking for more stuff, so can you send us more content, and we'll pay you for it even if we don't use it. So, you know, all kinds of details with that are going to be forthcoming, but I'm definitely going to be trying to work on that and see if I can get it accepted and, you know, find out if that happens, more details on that. So that would be cool, especially because I love Dungeons and Dragons, and I've been playing it so often, especially recently now that we've been locked inside. So it'll be fun to try to use that as a creative, you know, outlet of trying to figure out improv or sketch, especially filming it in our little apartment or, you know, hereabouts. So it'll be cool.
Right. Yeah. So it's really cool opportunity that just kind of came about because you just joined a Facebook group, you know, like it definitely does you no harm to just look into whatever Facebook groups that you can find. That doesn't necessarily have to just do with your career choice. It's just if you have a hobby, whatever, you know, things just, it's like, there's a very niche thing of like, oh, if you like Dungeons and Dragons and you're good at making comedy, why don't you do this? It's like, okay, cool. Like, I wouldn't have found that anywhere else.
And you've got time on your hands,
right.
And you've got, you know, film equipment and the ability to make this happen, right? Especially, I mean, the future, I think everybody's experiencing it now. The future is now, with the way that we are being forced to, you know, stay at our homes, everything is going online. Meetings are going online. Comedy is going online. Dramatic readings, you know, Patrick Stewart's reading Shakespeare on Instagram, and it's like all these people are being forced to do things that they wouldn't otherwise probably have spent the time and energy doing, that here on in, why wouldn't they, especially if they can continue to garner attention and praise and fun and especially money from all of these things that they're doing? Why, you know, everything's just going to be pushing further and further to be online. So
exactly. And I think that this whole thing is going to change a lot about how we create content and digest it too. And also, guess what? Artists and comedians and actors and movie makers, TV show makers, they're essential. Because how many goddamn movies have you watched during this thing? Probably a million. Right. So hopefully there's also some newfound respect. Okay, so now we're going to kind of just give our weekly tips of living in LA. I'll go ahead and start. So my tip is you should definitely invest if you haven't already. I mean, you should do this anywhere. Yeah, it's going to be big.
You're way on the tail end.
This is December 2017 right now when it exploded. I mean, or at least was popular. I don't remember. So if you haven't already, definitely invest in reusable grocery bags, which, I mean, you can buy like 20 on Amazon for like, I don't know, $15 or whatever. And because the reason is because California does charge for plastic bags. I think they charge 10 cents per plastic bag. So, you know, obviously it's not enough, but it's like, if you want to have your 10 cents or not have 10 cents, most people would say, sure, I'll have 10 cents. You know what I mean? Like I said, anywhere else that doesn't even enforce a charge on bags, because obviously they're enforcing it to help the environment, but you should do that anyway because it helps the environment. But especially in LA where they enforce that 10-cent thing. I will say that, like, especially if you live in Hollywood like we do, there are a good amount of, like, grocery stores and markets around that you probably could get, like, a little mini... I've seen a bunch of, like, little mini carts and stuff like that you can get. So you don't have to drive to the grocery store when it's right there, so you can load up all your groceries. And you can just push your little cart down, get it, and it's super common to do. People won't make fun of you.
Okay, my tip is something especially for right now, but it could apply to later times, is if you're looking for groceries, especially the basics, like your breads, your milks, your eggs, those kinds of things, everybody's going to Ralph's, everybody's going to the big box stores, and as a person who's been going there during this pandemic, it's a little crazy. Everybody's having to wait in line outside, hopefully practicing social distancing, and they're only letting a certain amount of people in. However, if you are to travel just a little bit further away from those places, there are tons of ethnic markets. Like, we live right in Thai Town, and there is a place right across the street from, right where near we live, called Silem Market. And there's all kinds of those places that have all of those, basic necessities, and, you can try some cool new stuff. But if you're searching for eggs and those kinds of things and you can't find it, any of those big box stores, check out your ethnic markets. They're all over the place, right? It's like in any other market, obviously, you're not going to find maybe like Fruity Pebbles or whatever there, right. But if you're looking for those other things, you desperately need milk, you desperately need eggs, and you're not finding them. And, since things are supposedly going to get even worse in the next few weeks, people might go on even more lockdown, not to spread any fear or anything like that. But hey, just another tip, if you want to avoid all of the craziness and the huge line, go check those out. I mean, I checked out the one across the street and just, almost empty, unfortunately. So
well, and unfortunately, people are being a little racist and being like, "Oh, I'm not going to go to an Asian market. What if there's the coronavirus there?"
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Oh, yeah, like that is 100% a thing that people are like not even buying Chinese food for takeout because they're like, "Oh no, it's going to be infected." It's like, what he talked about. The other thing I would say is he just mentioned the store Ralph's. So for people who are not from California, Ralph's is an Kroger-owned company. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so for like our friends back in home in Utah, that would be Smith's. So the other little mini tip, I guess I could say, is that if you go to a Kroger store where you live currently and you visit LA or California or move here or whatever, you can use the same, like, rewards number for the store that you use that's Kroger-owned at any Kroger store, and you'll get those rewards. So, just so you know, if you're out here, you're like, oh, I gotta go get groceries on this trip, go to Ralph's, and you can use that and save some money, rather than getting a whole new rewards thing. Just FYI. Alright, so we're just going to talk about a few things that we did. Not reviewing, just kind of chatting about some random things that we did. So, one of the things that we were able to do before this extra restriction happened, where if you're going to drive somewhere, it needs to be necessary, we went on a drive to Mulholland Drive.
We went on a drive to Mulholland Drive.
We went on a Mulholland Drive
right,
to
there
Mulholland Drive. And I have to say, well, okay, you explain, like...
So it's just a famous street known for its, like, gorgeous view of the San Fernando Valley. It's, like, one of the clearest ways to see the Hollywood sign and, you know, just everything up there. And all of the houses up there are just super expensive, obviously, because you get this giant view and it costs a lot to get land up there. So it's just really rich area and gorgeous views. And we went right, you know, near when the sun was going down. And so just all of that nice golden haze over everything was, you know, gorgeous as it turned into purple. But they also made a movie. David Lynch made a movie, and he's known for his crazy fucking movies. So I would listen for you now, but I don't have my IMDb open. But he made a psychological thriller, and I don't want to spoil it for you because Jessica hasn't seen it, but it's fucking crazy. And it's all about mysteries that takes place on that street. And so I was kind of informing Jessica as we took a drive up there. Very scenic. There's all kinds of little pullover spots and lookout points that you can check it out from. So if you are in LA, it's something free to do, and you don't have to go over to the Griffith Observatory to drive up there to be able to see everything. You can see it perfectly from there, so it's really nice. And not very far from where we lived in, you know, East Hollywood. It wasn't, you know, hard to get to.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just basically where, like, a lot of rich people live, so they're nice. It's, like, scenic on the right-hand side, where you see all of the valley, and then on the left-hand side, you see all of these really nice houses. It's funny, though, because I didn't notice that that's what it was. Like, we went and I didn't know that Mulholland Drive was, like, the lookout point that we looked at, and it was really cool.
Well, just the street.
Well, I know, but I didn't know that that was the street. I thought we were going to a lookout site, and then you were going to go, okay, and then here's Mulholland Drive. I had no idea that we were on Mulholland Drive. So when we were, like, leaving, we went and went through the drive-thru at Chick-fil-A, and I was like, okay, so are we getting food and then go to Mulholland Drive? And you're like, we just did that. So I'm like, oh.
We're going home. We're almost home.
I was like, wait. I was very confused. I will say that drive feels very, like, it's very tight.
It's
very
windy as fuck, though, right?
Yeah, so
whoever's driving won't be able to look around as much, but everybody else, really nice houses to scope out.
Yeah, it's definitely cool. Okay, the other thing that was cool that we actually did today was we did an online Q&A with comedian Andy Daly. Andy Daly is, if you haven't ever seen the show Review, please see it. I don't know if you can stream it at the moment, but you can buy it on DVD right now.
It was on Comedy Central, so maybe check out their website. Right?
Yeah, but it's so funny. Andy Daly is a big character actor. He was on Mad TV. He was in Eastbound and Down. He's basically, if any role calls for a principal or a doctor, he's usually one of those in a comedy.
He's the principal in Modern Family.
Yep.
He's always got glasses. He's the spokesperson for, Carfax?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Is it Carfax?
Carfax,
right,
yeah.
Exactly. He's the spokesperson, the guy with the glasses. So he's big-time improviser as well as character actor. Obviously, they go hand in hand. So we absolutely love him. But go on.
The reason we were able to do this, it was online, and I think only like 20 people were allowed to do it. Ooh. So that was pretty cool. It was only like $25. So it was held by UCB, and they actually just released like a list of things you could do online, like different classes and Q&As yesterday. So I luckily was able to see, I think Matt Besser tweeted it, right. And so I just clicked on it. I was like, oh, cool. Like, I would love to do a Q&A with Andy Daly. But that's also just a plug of, like, UCB is doing online classes right now for cheaper than they would be in person. I mean, I think it would be better to do it in person, but since it's cheaper, and especially if you're not ever planning on living in LA but want to get a class done with UCB, I would say now is probably a good time. Where, like, it's like $200 for the class, but usually it's $500 for the in-person, so you could save some money, too.
Right, and with this Q&A, he was specifically talking about character work, because that's what he's most known for on the Comedy Bang Bang podcast, as well as a litany of other ones that he produces himself.
Yeah, if we haven't ever mentioned it before, which I don't think we have, definitely listen to Comedy Bang Bang. It is I mean, it is like the number one comedy podcast right now. I mean, besides How This Get Made, like those two are the like big ones, and I recommend listening to both of them for sure. But definitely look for his name and Paul F. Tompkins. Those two are definitely the best character actors like in the world right now. Like, I'm pretty positive of that. So definitely check it out. It's very, very funny. So if you need some starter episodes to listen to it, definitely just look for one of their names, and I guarantee you're just gonna love it. So, right. And be hooked on that show. So yeah, the Q&A was really cool. Just like I said, it was online. We could see the other students, and he just kind of talked about his process of creating characters, and the one thing he talked about that I really liked was that, and this is something that I feel like a lot of comedians fall into, is justifying the fun away. So sometimes when you're doing like improv, people will kind of just put all of this absurdity on you all of a sudden, and like it is important to yes and, but I think what he was saying is like it's important to not get too absurd. Like, allow your character to have like one or a couple absurd things about you and still live within that reality, because then it's just going to become a shit show. Right. So that's something that I took away from it. I thought it was really cool. Obviously, it's like one of those things where you just had to be there to see it, but definitely keep an eye out if that interests you. Q&As with different guests. They said they were going to be posting more in the future. If that's interesting to you, definitely look on ucb.com, and there will be a list that you can sign up for. Cool. And then the other thing we wanted to talk about, and I know that we talk a lot about comedy because that's what we do and that's what we are interested in. So we're trying not to be too comedy oriented because we understand that not everyone who's moving to LA wants to do comedy or is even that interested in it. But LA, I believe, has the best comedy. So there's a theater called the Largo at the Coronet. That place, there's no like home shows in terms of like, oh, this troupe performs there or whatever. But they do have shows that do happen all the time. They just have a different variety of them, and sometimes they have shows that they do once and never do it again, and then there are shows that they do monthly, weekly, whatever. So that can range from stand-up to improv to podcasts to benefits. Like, there's like a show called Sarah Silverman and Friends, and she brings a bunch of people on stage. Nick Kroll and Friends, Patton Oswalt and Friends,
Judd Apatow and Friends.
Judd Apatow, that... I will say that one was a very expensive... We didn't go see that one, but it was definitely very expensive.
Right. Well, he does it all the time, too.
And he does it all the time, but it's because he knows so many big names that it's like, you're going to pay for the big names that were there. But there are a lot of different things like that. One show that we love that's been monthly is called Improvised Shakespeare Company. So essentially what they do is there are usually four, right, sometimes five, guys who come out and they're just in white shirts, black pants, and like tights, and like kind of just like a basic Shakespeare gender neutral looking people. They come out and they ask for a suggestion for what the play that they're going to do is titled, and people just yell stuff out, and they just randomly choose one, and then they do an entire one-act Shakespearean play based on that one thing. Right,
and they don't try to they're like, oh, that one's the best, that one sounds the most. Like last time we went, it was called Between Two Slices of Bread. So right. Yelled that out, and all right, we're going to fucking make a Shakespeare play off of this, right? A tragedy or a comedy, here it comes. And right. It is so fantastic because they are able to do iambic pentameter when it's necessary, as well as throw in a little bit of the fun
verse and prose
of allowing themselves to do a little bit of improv and have some fun moments, but as well as keep these stories together. The most fun for me is obviously as an improviser, I'm just seeing they don't forget a thing. So if one of them makes a mistake by calling somebody else something, they make it a part of it, not in an insulting way, in a literal like, oh, there's something behind you making that mistake that your character didn't actually mean to say or do that. You are referencing this other person that up until you just said that name incorrectly didn't exist, and now we're going to say, oh, you mean this other person? Well, yes, that person did that. And just never forget anything. Something mentioned at the very beginning of the show as a character trait of somebody else, if it hadn't come up yet, they made sure that it did organically later in the show. And just a mesmerizing and mind-blowing away in a way that we could never possibly hope to achieve it. So just literally have to watch and enjoy and, be flabbergasted. And so many people that are involved in that troupe are just so talented.
Oh
and
my God, they're so good. There is a guy, his name's Ross Byrne, I think is how you pronounce his last name. He does the prologue.
Right. And he's been doing it for years. I saw them in Chicago at I.O. Which
they do it in Chicago home, too. Right? So if you're in Chicago, check them out.
They're so good that they literally fly out here. And obviously, they do private shows, I'm sure, all over the place. But he was the one doing it there when I saw it, and that was like 6 or 7 years ago, and it's still just as good. But go on. Sorry.
But yeah, he does an entire prologue. This is right after the suggestion, so he has to basically set up the premise of the play, use iambic pentameter verse, and make it make sense and funny.
Right. It's not just nonsense. He's literally explaining, okay, the star-crossed lovers or whatever the setup is. He's going into details while making it, play with whatever these 2 slices of bread. Okay, how can I make references to all this other stuff?
Right.
It's amazing.
It's so
I believe
wonderful.
They've got a video on YouTube that they did for a private benefit. They don't have much because it's a live performance, but I think you can watch one 20-minute show that they did for a special on ABC or something like that. So if you wanted to check it out. But Thomas Middleditch, most namely from Silicon Valley and all kinds of other things.
Verizon commercial.
Right, Verizon. He's the spokesperson. He's made it big, but they're all equally as talented. And he was a main cast member of their group, as well as cool enough. They randomly, I'm not saying it happens all the time, but it's happened more than once. They have Sir Patrick Stewart will come and do the
and other random guests.
Right,
I think
people
who
can handle it.
Yeah, I think they had what's his name that played George Costanza, Jason Alexander.
Right.
I know they had him on a year ago or something.
I wish it was
insane.
Jerry. That would have been great. Oh, forsooth!
Oh, can you imagine?
My old friend! What are you doing there?
Oh my God, I don't want to know what Seinfeld Shakespeare is like. But anyway, to wrap it up, because obviously we could talk about this forever, because we just love the show.
Right.
But as an actor who has been trained in Shakespeare for years, it's really amazing to watch. They use just all the classic tropes, and they're so good at it's you really feel like you're watching a Shakespearean play. Right. It's so crazy, but it's
women. They're playing multiple characters, but they don't have any props. They don't have any costumes.
Yeah,
it's all just in their acting.
Right, and there's stakes. They make. Oh gosh, it's so amazing.
People get murdered, and it's justified.
Yeah, murdered, disguises,
story, right? And it is so different every time. You would think after years and years and years, it's okay, we got the basic story down. If we get lost, let's just make it a story about a guy and a girl who aren't supposed to be together, and their mom and dad don't like it. Okay, we'll just do that. I've seen it, I think 4 times now, maybe 5, and every single time it's completely different. In no way, shape, or form do they use anything they've done before.
Yep.
And even the tropes that you're talking about that they play off of are completely different.
They do it in a
each
different
time.
way.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
So they can use the same tropes, but tweak it, so it's different and interesting. But anyway, yes, please, 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 if you are in LA or Chicago, and they actually tour sometimes, I've seen them go to Denver a couple times. Right. So definitely keep an eye out for it, because I'm telling you, they're so good. The other show that we saw was called Middleditch and Schwartz. So back to Thomas Middleditch. He and Ben Schwartz is John Ralphio in Parks and Rec. He just played Sonic the Hedgehog. They do a 2-person improvised 1-act play as well. 2-person improv is very hard, and they were very impressive. They actually would kind of switch back and forth who was playing which character. Right. So sometimes Ben would introduce a character, and then a character that he introduced later had to come in, so Thomas would come in as that character, or Thomas would switch to the character he was just playing, and Ben would switch to the new person coming in. It really has crazy, to be, but they made it make sense.
You can't forget because it's like, I know I'm talking to you, Ben, the human being, right now, but I need to remember by the way you're walking and the way you're showing yourself. Oh yeah, that was that character's deal. That person is into me, or that person has no idea.
And they do have a Netflix special coming out in April, so keep an eye out for that because it's really good. I think it was April 21st or near the end of April. Yeah, so the whole point of this is we just talked about the couple ones that we've seen and really enjoyed, but if you are ever looking for something that's really, really cool to see, usually the Largo has very cool shows going on, and you can see really cool people. All right, so each week we review an LA restaurant and experiences in a segment we like to call Review Some Stews and Do's. All right, so this week we are reviewing Umami Burger. Umami.
Umami.
Yeah.
Hi, Poppy.
Hi, Poppy.
Should have just been that.
So the one we went to is by Amoeba Music. And there's also an ArcLight on Sunset Boulevard. It's not on Sunset Boulevard, but it's like off of it. So
they're a franchise, right? There's multiple.
Yeah, so there are multiple ones. That's just the one that we went to. And it's basically, like, obviously known for its burgers, and we'll tell you which ones we tried. We haven't tried a ton, but Andrew, you've been to it before.
Right. I have a question about umami. That's like the fourth taste, right? There's sweet, salty,
sour,
and umami,
spicy.
Right? Or the fifth one, whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever.
Umami is that thing.
It is
right?
a.
What is umami? I guess I could have looked it up, but this is fun for our listeners.
Umami is like, I'm going to probably be wrong, but I feel like...
pretend as if I just already knew it, but I'll look it up and edit this in. Okay, I looked it up. Umami, a category of taste in food besides sweet, sour, salt, and bitter, corresponding to the flavor of glutamates, especially monosodium glutamate. So... that's the way your mouth responds to it, I guess. So, Umami Burger, yeah.
Yeah.
And I would definitely say it was very umami, especially with what I got, if we want to jump into what we had there. I had an umami burger that had all kinds of truffle sauce all over it.
I'll read it. So the burger you got was called the Umami Truffle. It had truffle mayo, truffle cheese, and truffle glaze, which I don't know what that means, but basically is very truffly. And how did you like it?
It was really good. It was so different. I guess that's what that umami flavor is. I was trying to put my, finger out. I'm like, it's not quite like cheese. It's not quite like salty, like, on top of the fries or whatever. It's just interesting. And it was pretty good. They're a little bit expensive for the size that you get, so it definitely wouldn't be a place that I would go to all the time simply because it just wasn't big enough portions for, what you're getting. It was interesting to taste, but I wasn't sure exactly how the truffle, all that stuff would go together. So if you're really into that truffle flavor, which I guess is this umami flavoring, worth a try, but I think I probably overdid it with all that truffle sauce because it got it on my, French fries and all that stuff, so it's kind of hard to taste anything else, right? So it was, I went umami all the way. Umami!
Yeah, we're just going to keep saying that. You truffled it up, that's for sure. I got my own fries that were just regular fries, but I tried the truffle fries and with my burger. So I think I had a better balance of the truffle, but it was really good. I got the Umami Cali Double. Cali Double. So basically it's a double cheeseburger with all the regular stuff on it, but then they also have grilled onions and miso mustard and umami sauce. And actually it is spelled out as umami on their website, so I'm just reading what it says, folks. That basically tasted like an In-N-Out burger with like animal style. That's what it tasted like.
Saying that tasted like shit.
And that tasted
the way you set yourself up.
No,
but in what way an In-N-Out burger?
Like it was. That's basically they made it. I'm pretty sure because it's called the Cali Double, they're like copycatting In-N-Out kind of.
Is
like
that what
because In-N-Out's
the
like
double or whatever?
Yeah, the double animal style. So it has like the fry sauce. Well, okay. Hold up. That was my Utah talking. Anyone who's not from Utah, fry sauce is ketchup and mayo mixed together. Oh. Surprisingly, a lot of people don't know that. Or mayo chup, which is what Heinz just came out with.
Mayo chup?
Yeah, they called it, Heinz brought, made fry sauce, which is what it's called to us, and called it mayo chup, and they're like selling it in stores.
Oh, mayo chup. I think it said mayo chub.
Oh, mayo chub. Oh God, what? If anything was called mayo chub, that's what I have on my thighs.
It's more appetizing than fry sauce.
Oh, so. Yeah. No, I love fry sauce. But, it basically just tasted like a double animal style, which is good, but I felt like a little disappointed because I'm like, well, I'm coming here for a different experience than In-N-Out.
Right. And you're paying a lot more. You go, I thought this was a place that did only burgers. So, recommendation only if you want to specifically go and try that umami sauce and the different truffle things on top of it. Other than that, if you literally just want a burger.
Yeah, well, and they have the Impossible Burger, which I didn't try because I wanted to try just the regular.
It's made of.
It's I think plant-based.
Right.
And which I've heard that Impossible is better than Beyond Meat, from what I've heard.
Oh, is it just a different company?
Yeah, so they're different companies making the same type of meat, but I've heard that Impossible is a lot closer to actual meat. I haven't tried it.
Improbable burger.
We should. Exactly. I want a Kim Possible burger. Oh, that'd be great. Okay, so we do recommend this place. Like I said, it's a little more expensive than what it's worth.
Like $14 a burger or something like that.
But it is good.
Get your own sides. Nothing comes with it, so yeah.
Right, but it is good, and we really still enjoyed
worth a try.
it.
Yeah, there's a reason that they're around, especially if you want to try that truffle sauce, which obviously I wanted to show you that, so it's cool.
Right. So we went to, now for the experiences, we actually just, right after going to Umami, we just took a walk down to Amoeba Music. Now, that is some people will recognize the name Amoeba Music. It is basically just like a big record store. It's really
it's like a record warehouse. It's fucking huge.
It's really big, and obviously
they have multiple levels.
Yeah, and obviously it's evolved over time.
Like an amoeba. Oh my god.
Oh, exactly. It's evolved over time, obviously, as technology has changed, but it was really cool because it still felt very, old school, and, they're keeping the integrity of, old, how it's been in the past, I guess. And they separate things with, they separate categories of different types of music. I would say the first main floor, when you walk in, is, just straight up music, rock and roll. They have hip hop, rap, whatever. They just separate it into categories, and you can buy records, you can buy CDs,
cassettes, 8-track, obviously vinyl, literally every form
anything
of used music, and you can sell that there as well. They have signs everywhere. You got CDs, you got cassettes, you got anything. Bring it in here. So. If you've got all that stuff sitting around and you've moved everything to MP3, hey, why not? That's the last standing place to go and do that for sure.
Right. But they also have, merchandise. We almost bought some stickers for our laptops and stuff like that because they just have a ton of stickers. So it's if you like any singers, just flip through this and you'll see, or movies, or sticker, yeah. Right. We found Freddie Mercury stickers, which I don't think we've talked about, but Andrew is a massive Queen fan and loves Freddie Mercury.
Thank you, darling.
Yeah. So the main floor, there is just basically just tons of music, tons of memorabilia and merchandise. It's you could spend hours there just looking at stuff. It's so cool to see. And then if you wanted to go upstairs, it was a weird time travel moment,
right,
where it was a mini Blockbuster up there,
or Hollywood Video. I think other people had. I was Blockbuster.
I had Hollywood Video,
right, exactly.
So yeah,
completely different experience.
It's so different. I missed it. But it was basically just I mean, you can't rent it, you have to buy it, but it felt, the vibe was very like, I'm in the early 2000s, late 90s right now, looking at all of these movies.
When's the last time you browsed movies? You know, probably not in a long time. Obviously online, but meaning, just browse the DVD section, right?
Yeah, and even like, you know, at Target or something, they've reduced their DVD section so much.
It's like mostly Blu-rays, I'm sure, as well.
Yeah, so, it's like most people don't even buy movies anymore.
VHS, DVDs, everything.
All categories. You could buy adult movies.
Almost any movie you could
anime
think
hentai.
of, right? I wish we'd written down some of the ones that we saw, but it's like, obviously, all the classics, but just, if you can think it was there. You want to see Face Off, it was there.
Yeah.
You want to see, you know, I don't know, the new Willy Wonka, the old one, you want to see...
Just those two.
Just those two.
They have
multiple copies.
Just two.
You want to see The Mummy with Brendan Fraser on VHS, because that's all your grandma has. They've got it.
Right.
So
now you're assuming that your grandma's the only one that has a VHS.
That's true.
People are pretty trendy nowadays and have one. So if you go back downstairs, the further you go back, there's like an area that they have people signing autographs and whatever when they come through.
Right,
like,
I think we mentioned in an earlier episode, Ozzy Osbourne was there, and there was a big fight and stuff like that. So it's very famous for exactly that, having big album releases and stuff. A lot of people do it at Amoeba Music. That's where you can first hear it, and little mini acoustic shows and stuff too.
Right, exactly. So there's like that area. It was basically just, I think they had some posters over there since no one was signing anything when we were there. But you keep going back and they have more of like the classical music and like, I don't know, like kind of more on the older side, but they also have the comedy albums and different more, you know, like, maybe they had audiobooks? I can't really remember.
Where would you keep an audiobook, I guess?
Well, like, you know how, like, sometimes they have CDs?
Like, okay, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. No, that's what I mean.
Sure.
So, it was really cool, like, going through and being like, oh, this is awesome that, like, all these comedians just get to have, like, their own section in Amoeba Music. Like, how crazy is that? Because I know I've heard like Patton Oswalt talk about Amoeba Music, how he loves that place. But yeah, so we definitely recognize it's a cool, like, iconic place to look at. And I mean, if you ever want to just, if you're like, oh, I like CDs, I like records, DVDs, whatever, that is definitely a cool place to go. And
they're busy, but it's so big that even on like a busy day, I mean, I can't believe they had so many registers. They must have like an insane, it must be like because, okay, when Ozzy comes, there's going to be so many people at the door, we need to get them in and out as fast as we can, so they're all going to be here to buy those albums and stuff. And so if you're ever actually there to purchase stuff, you'll be in and out. They've got so many people working there. And I don't think we went on a Saturday or anything. I think maybe it was just a different random day, but it was definitely populated, all kinds of people roaming around, but it never felt cramped, or we never felt like, there's no reason to be here, we gotta go, there's, you know, too packed, or there's not enough going on, not enough to look at. It was cool. Right.
So definitely recommend just give it a shot, see if you find something cool there that you can take.
Old movie posters that you would never be able to find online or at just like a Walmart or whatever, you know, because obviously they've got Star Wars, but do they have, you know, Ernst Goes to Camp or something like that?
The classics.
Right.
That and Face Off. Ugh. Okay, so this week, normally we would have an improv scene, but since not much happened to us specifically, we could do, like, improv scenes on news coverage and whatever, but we don't want to stick to coronavirus too much to fuel our comedy.
Sick of it.
Right. So we decided that not only are we going to do improv, we're also going to do different comedic outlets as well. So we also write sketches, we also do videos, things like that. Obviously it's hard to do a video on a podcast, but you know, we'll at least read the sketches that we write, and you know, any other thing that we think of we just want to do instead of improv. So this week we're going to do a sketch that I wrote. I wrote this several months ago, I think. So the reason I decided to write the sketch is I was in the break room at work and I was watching the news, and there was a news story about this used car ownership place I don't know. There was a
used car dealership.
Yeah, that's what I meant. A used car dealership that had their, those floppy guys at the front had their guy stolen, and they were kind of like, not the newscasters weren't necessarily making fun of it, but it's like when they were talking to them, they were kind of like lightheartedly like, yeah, I don't know why they stole it. It's a really weird thing to steal or whatever. So I thought, okay, that would be funny if, like, there was that coverage of someone stealing a Floppy Joe guy. So I was thinking, like, oh, that would be funny if, like, if I could write a sketch about one of those floppy guys, but treat it as if, like, they were, like, a family member, and this was very devastating. So this is the sketch that I wrote, called Floppy Joe. Andrew's going to read the guy parts, I'll read the girl parts and the directions, and we'll just make it come to life the best we can with our voices.
Theater of the mind.
Yeah. Floppy Joe. Interior, a news desk. The entire script is a news cover story. Norman Hart, anchorman, sits at the desk.
That guy's not going to go on a date by himself again, I'm sure.
New angle. Norman has a more serious tone. Picture of inflatable man in the top left corner.
Some distressing news today. A local used car business in Albuquerque suffered a loss on Monday when someone broke into their lot and stole their beloved inflatable man, Floppy Joe. The couple that runs this business tells Channel 6's Carrie Crawford what happened.
Cutscene of broken glass on the ground. Burglary. Cutscene of owner Sylvia distressed. He broke in through our window over there. Cutscene of empty spot where Floppy Joe used to be. Kidnapping. Cutscene of owner Jerry distressed.
Whoever did this, I don't know how they can sleep at night.
Cutscene of a red shred ripped on a fence. Not sleeping is exactly the situation for business owners and married couple Jerry and Sylvia Shear after their inflatable man, Floppy Joe, was stolen on Monday at approximately 2:34 a.m. Cut to Jerry with his arms around a distressed Sylvia.
Well, it started out like any other morning. I woke up, had my coffee and eggs. I kissed my kids. Had no idea my world was about to come crashing down in just a matter of a few minutes.
We drove up to the car lot and we saw the window had been broken. Our first thought was, oh my God, someone stole from us.
And, well, we entered the building and we searched everywhere and, we wanted to see what was taken from us. And, well, everything seemed to be in place and, we thought everything was okay and we looked outside and we just couldn't believe it.
Video camera footage of the thief coming out of the store and grabbing Floppy Joe, shoving him in his car and driving off plays during the voiceover. Security footage shows the thief coming back out of the building, grabbing Floppy Joe, shoving him into his car, and driving off with the inflatable man flopping furiously out of his window. Cut to a close-up of Sylvia. We think he broke in initially to steal some money or some popcorn from our lobby at least, but he must have discovered what would really cut us deep and took off with Floppy. Montage of photos of them with Floppy Joe in front of the building on opening day, them showing them their new baby, their child riding a bike for the first time with Floppy watching in the background.
Joe's been with us since the beginning. We've been through so many ups and downs with him and so many side to sides that just never knew which way he was going to bend over for us, but you could always count on him.
Cut to a picture of a silhouette of a man's face with a question mark in it. Police are still investigating as to who has committed the crime, and the Shears, while devastated, are hoping to have some answers soon. Cut back to shot of both owners crying.
If anybody would look for him, he's red. He has the biggest goddamn smile on his face, and, when you see him, he's probably doing this.
Jerry sadly imitates an inflatable man while sobbing, stops and covers his face. Sylvia rubs his back. He must be so scared and alone. Whoever did this, please don't hurt him. Bring back our Floppy Joe. A picture of Floppy Joe slowly zooming in. I'm Carrie Crawford for Channel 6, New Mexico. Quick cut back to the couple crying.
Wow, God, why? Why did it have to be him? Take our other son!
The end. So there you have it. That's one of the sketches that that I wrote and decided to share with you guys. Great. So hopefully you enjoyed it. If you didn't, shut the fuck up. If you enjoyed it, I'm a professional. If you hated it, I'm a beginner. Okay? So don't give me crap out of the way. All right, great. So this is the end of the episode. Thank you so much for listening. And please check out our social media accounts on Facebook at Moving to LA Podcast, Instagram by the same name, and Twitter at Moving to LA Pod, as well as our personal accounts.
At Andrew Sprague on Instagram and at A Sprague on Twitter.
And at Jessica Sprague on Instagram and at Jessica_Sprague on Twitter. So we also want you to subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/MTLA. So the different tiers that we have, one of them is, or the first tier, which is only $2, is called Fan of George Clooney. And what you would get for $2 a month, not very much at all, but it helps us, you would be able to get early access to our episodes on Patreon. So that's kind of a cool thing, that you can, if you prefer listening to it on a Monday rather than a Tuesday, well, you're in luck, because then you can do that. And then the second tier is called George Clooney. So that you will get early access, and we will mention your name on air and make up something nice that you did to make you seem like a really good person to everyone. So you can show your friends, hey, look, I'm a good person. So that tier is $5, and then the last tier is called George Clooney Post Batman and Robin, which is the best tier. And that is $10 per month. And with that, you'll get early access. We'll also make something up nice for you, and you can write or record a message to send to us at movingtoLApodcast@gmail.com whenever you would like, and we have to read it aloud or add the clip to the episode. It could be a question, a suggestion, a plug for something, a thank you.
Or even a small sketch, and we'll perform it for you.
Right, exactly. So with that, we do have one patron at the moment. Her name is Kathy French, and she is in the George Clooney tier. Oh. So, let's see. This week, Kathy, she was super nice, and she, made me cookies. She lives in Utah. She made me cookies, and she mailed them over to me. Okay, and she was risking everything, because, this virus is ravishing, and she sacrificed herself to, send me cookies.
They weren't even boxed. It was an open Ziploc bag, but it had the proper postage on it.
Yeah, and she, that's just so brave to me. So thank you so much, Kathy. I really appreciate it. Okay, and then also, if you guys could really just, go and rate and review us on any of the platforms that you listen to, that would be awesome. We definitely want to, rise a little bit more in the queue for when people are looking for a podcast to listen to about moving to LA. So that would be awesome. And then if you have any suggestions or questions or comments, just feel free to either email us or you can comment on any of our social media posts, that sort of thing. All right. So with that, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week. And to sign off, if you can make it here, you made it here.